So, what's going on here? Let's see. We've got our conveyor belts animating. We don't have any functionality at all. We have a really crappy implementation of storing changes to the voxel world in memory that has a fixed number of changes and rotates them out, so we need to fix that. Here, let's see. What's going on here? What's going on here? Let's see. We've got our conveyor belts animating. We don't have any functionality at all. We have a really crappy implementation of storing changes to the voxel world in memory that has a fixed number of changes and rotates them out, so we need to fix that. We want to set up a world where we have 1,000,000 blocks, I don't actually know the number of blocks, and 10,000 sprites and hundreds of polygonal objects, let's say. So we have the block renderer, but we don't have the other renderers. Once we actually can preserve the changes in memory properly, we actually need to save them out to disk. We can do this just as save games. We can try to keep them all in memory and then write them out to disk as save games. But instead, I think the Minecraft approach makes more sense because we have an infinite world. We could constrain this game to a smaller world and just use regular save games. But I think the idea that you could go out really far and build a new factory somewhere else is pretty cool. Then we have Factorio style physics to implement, which we'll call the logistics system. And there's a whole bunch of stuff to do there. Even though it's a very trivial physics to move things around on conveyor belts, it's actually going to require some complications because you need to move things in the right order if they're not allowed to move into each other. You need to move the stuff at the front first, so we'll actually have to track and find where the front is, and you have to deal with the case where you make a circle of conveyor belts and there's no front. Speed up texture loading. We're going to have a lot more textures, so I'd like to thread that so that at startup you drop in the game with the low-res textures very quickly and the high-res textures load in the background. And then we'll need block style objects that are machines that interact with the logistics simulation in interesting ways. And then this is sort of an open question. Then we'll need to get the whole system started by having some kind of resource gathering. And then once we have a system that's actually building a lot of different things or more than one thing, well, we need some kind of player inventory to deal with that. So, So I've sorted them into an order that I thought might be appropriate. But I think what I want to do is improve the feel right now of placing blocks and destroying blocks, which it doesn't actually feel very good right now. All right, so I changed the scale. I wonder if I should put jumping in, so you have to jump up blocks instead of teleporting up them. The original plan was that the block size was much smaller, and you would just be able to step up them. It wouldn't teleport. I need to add view smoothing, but the plan was that you wouldn't have to jump. But at a Minecraft scale, maybe jumping feels better. I mean, you can't tell because the view isn't warping, so it's hard to tell how it would feel. But like, people are familiar with that concept from Minecraft, and it might be kind of cool. It could be an upgrade that you build that lets you automatically step up steps in some future point. So just to make it feel better, maybe I should do that. Okay, and then the block placing. The problem is that it's showing you where the block is going to be created, and it just feels a little weird. In Minecraft, they show you the block that's going to be destroyed, I think. So let's switch to that. Right, that rendering is in main somewhere. Or is it in... No, there's... No, it's not main, because main... Oh, no, it is main. Here it is. So let's cut and paste that. And then let's change this from create to destroy. See how this feels. So then the problem is you can't tell where the create's going to happen, maybe. And Minecraft has a crosshair, I think, unless I'm high, so that you know which face you're looking at. Because if I'm looking at this face, it'll build into that little corner, and if I'm looking at that face, it'll build above. Oops, I clicked destroy because I'm an idiot. So I think Minecraft has a crosshair. Where is... Oh, there's the switch. I could certainly add... I would certainly add jumping regardless. I would certainly add jumping regardless. And like, so that's sort of how Ace of Spades works, is that you get step up 1 height blocks, but you have to jump if you want to go up 2 height. Or something like that. I don't even remember if it actually lets you jump up 2 height, but that's the obvious sort of thing that I had intended to do. I just never got around to implementing jumping. It's just if I want to remove the 1 step up, I definitely have to implement jumping now. And I think it's a big enough step that it... Like I said, I feel like Minecraft has such broad penetration, and... Oh, I need to change the movement speed, because I shrank you, and so now you feel like you're crazy fast. I've changed the scale of the block, and but your movement speed is unchanged block basis. So I feel like Minecraft has enough spread, and everyone's used to it, that nobody would really complain. And the whole smoothing the view jump thing is a little awkward anyway, so forcing you to jump, of course, just avoids that. Could be nice to show a ghost block. Well, that's sort of... Could be nice to show a ghost block. Well, could be nice to show a ghost block. Well, that's sort of what the old thing of showing where the block was going to get created was. But yeah, I mean, I agree, that's sort of, I guess, what Infinifactory does, I think. So am I high, or does Minecraft have a crosshair? Oh, I don't need the RGB thing anymore. So that's, where do I switch to 2D mode? Here's where I switch to 2D mode. do I just... So am I high, or does Minecraft have a crosshair? Oh, I don't need the RGB thing anymore. So that's where do I switch to 2D mode? Here's where I switch to 2D mode. What's the screen? Shape. Screen X, screen Y. Oh, but I'm using half of it. Am I using half of it? Okay, I am. I'll live with it. And all of this can be changed in the future, of course, anyway. The stepping up the crosshair, the ghost block, etc. I just want the field to be a little bit better so that it doesn't distract me while I'm doing this stuff. Okay, so now I have a little crosshair. I just want the field to be a little bit better so that it doesn't distract me while I'm doing this stuff. Okay, so now I have a little crosshair. And I know exactly which thing is going to create. I keep doing these backwards, the left and right mouse button. I think it's maybe it's reversed between Infinifactory and Minecraft or something. You haven't seen the OpenGL lib because it's not in the you haven't seen the OpenGL lib because it's not in the main STB tree. Yeah, but it is available in the OBBG tree. And the SGBTBGL use program is this other GL prog thing that I wrote to simplify, to wrap some of the creating and programming the shaders, configuring the shaders. Do I see conveyor belts going up downhill or only flat? Yes, I see them going up downhill. Do I see conveyor belts going up downhill or only flat? Yes, I see them going up downhill. That would be one of the things that makes this different. There is a diagonal block type already in the engine. It's not in OBBG, but it's in the STB voxel render stuff. And Factorio has, like, if you want to cross conveyor belts, they have an underground conveyor belt that you don't actually explicitly build. You build the endpoints where it comes up and where it goes down. And so here you could just go ahead and build these three-dimensional conveyor belts going above and below each other, like in Infinifactory. But instead of in Infinifactory having to do shenanigans to get them to go up, and then for down just having them fall, will instead require that they go up and down ramps so that they stay well configured in the logistics simulation, rather than free falling where you might expect them to make a messy pile. Oh, so what is on KView? What was the question? Oh, so what is on? Oh, so what is on KView? What was the question about KView? KView is in the STB GitHub. It's in the tests, I think. It is the Minecraft viewer that I wrote for the STB voxel render trailer. And so there will be an odd thing, which is that I think it's just going to reuse the same texture animation for the conveyor belts going up and going down. And since those will be projective textures from above, those are just going to traverse the same speed along the X and Y axis, but since they're also going to be moving up and down along Z, they'll actually go 40% faster when they're on ramps. Which will actually keep the sim really simple, but it maybe is kind of dumb, kind of unrealistic, but the whole system is going to be a little unrealistic, so I'm okay with that. Like, that'll be an interesting thing to see, is whether 3D makes the unreality of it less plausible. Okay, so I've been trying to think about what to do for... Okay, so I've been trying to think about what to do less plausible. Okay, so I've been trying to think about what to do for... Oh, so what is on KView? What was the question about KView? KView is in the STB GitHub. It's in the tests, I think. It is the Minecraft viewer that I wrote for the STB voxel render trailer. Okay, so I've been trying to think about what to do for when a texture turns a corner. So the three options that I can see, not texture, when a conveyor belt turns a corner. So the three options I can see. So you need to make a turning block. And the three options I can see, and I don't want to make a block that like hides its internals while just to turn corners. I'm gonna have blocks that hide their internals for splitters and stuff like that, probably, at least to start with. But I would like them, when you're just making a straight conveyor belt, a plain conveyor belt, to have the turns look natural. So the three options are you just make a little animation of, like of it turning a corner, maybe going around a little rounded corner. That's one option. The second option is to overlay two textures. One which is, like, say you're going from east to north, so one of the textures is translating going eastward, and one is translating going northward. But you can't, and it's like a diagonal split between them, you know, rather than a rounded split. But the problem with that is that you can't actually animate that with scrolling, because you need a mask between the two that stays in place while the texture on it rotates. But there's only two textures, so there's only room for the east going to one and the north going one, and there's no room for a separate mask that doesn't scroll. So I think the actual thing that you do there is you have one of the directions scrolling, and the other direction doesn't scroll and is overlaid on top of it to hide the parts that it's doing, which is going to be a little odd. But you could imagine maybe the incoming one doesn't scroll, but the outgoing one does scroll. Might feel okay. The other thing you could do is kind of cheat that, is to use an animation for the one that can't scroll and have it just go through like two states or something, so it still shows a little motion. But the interesting thing about all that is that we don't have texture rotation in the system, so I currently have to have 4 separate textures, which is also okay because they need to scroll differently anyway. But those rotation things, those turns, need 8 like I need a turn left, a turn right, and 4 rotations of that. So those will use up 8 more texture slots, and if I want them to animate, they need to use up even more. And there's no animation system in the current stuff. So I kind of have to figure out how to make all that work. So, how to do 90 degrees. factory turns is an open problem. And I don't know if I have anything else where I need how to make animated blocks. Now, one thing I could do is I could step outside of the block system for these. So the whole point of, as I said, the rendering, the idea of the rendering is to have something that can draw 1 million blocks. Who knows the actual number? 10,000 sprites, and, you know, I don't know, 500 polygonal objects. So we could definitely add to the rendering some stuff that's block-like. We could add a new, you know, block-like renderer that's, you know, targeting, I don't know, 1,000 block-like things with animation that has more flexibility in terms of, you know, cycling through textures. It supports rotation so that we don't have to have the rotation and stuff. And we can still use the existing system for the block system for the conveyor belts, but for the turns in the conveyor belts, we could switch to using this. Now, that would mean that if you made your factory just everything turning everywhere, if you like intentionally made sort of like diagonal belts that just constantly turned every single time, then you'd hit this bad case, performance case, where suddenly your blocks are no longer going, most of your blocks aren't going through the block system. But it's worth keeping in mind that that's an option. And a related idea would just be to have 1,000 block surface decals, where we're not drawing the whole block, we're just drawing a surface on top of blocks. Again, like Minecraft does that for when you're destroying something and it cycles through this little animation of getting more and more destroyed, but it only ever has to do one of those at a time. Minecraft also has the redstone that's an overlay that I don't know how Minecraft does that, because it does animate at a pretty high rate, and hopefully they don't update their whole mesh when that happens. So you could imagine that the redstone is just done by drawing these decals that you just constrain to make sure they render on the surface and don't have Z fighting problems. There's stuff you can do in GPU stuff to make that work. So we don't actually have to solve that, because it's just going to be a visual thing. We could get all the way through, implement the logistics system without ever correctly rendering conveyor belt turns, and save it for another day. However, the user needs to put down the blocks and somehow communicate that it is connected. And if there's no visual feedback for that, that might become problematic. So right now, I think what we want to do, though, is go ahead and start working on the sprite problem. Right now, I think what we want to do, though, is go ahead and start working on problematic. Right now, I think what we want to do, though, is go ahead and start working on the sprite problem. So to do this, I need some placeholder sprites. I don't have any good ideas for that. Yes, I already have changing UV coordinates. Yes, I already have changing UV coordinates. That's how I do the basic animation for the conveyor belts. Which I will show for people who are coming late and haven't seen it yet. There you can see the conveyor belts animating. The problem is doing other different kinds of animation. And the fact that this takes up a limited number of texture slots in the block system. So, and of course, it doesn't come through perfectly on stream, but this is a 60 hertz, perfectly smooth animation. So, what can I use as is there some good source I can use for that? I don't even know where I have put those things. the first frame time countermeasure. That measures the actual frame time. So it's either oscillating between, I think it's just not V-synced probably, because I'm drawing to a window. So it sometimes is taking longer. Now why is it taking that long? It's either GPU rendering time, which seems really unlikely because the depth is probably in. Maybe it's V-sync of some kind. Or something else. But this is a debug build, although I guess CPU frame time suggests that's not really the issue. Oh, can I not resize the window? Yeah, I don't actually support that. Great. I think it's just not V-synced, probably. Sure. This is the first frame time countermeasure. This is the first frame. This is the first frame time countermeasure. That measures the actual frame time. So it's either oscillating between, I think it's just not V-synced probably, because I'm drawing to a window. So it sometimes is taking longer. Now why is it taking that long? It's either GPU rendering time, which seems really unlikely because the depth is probably in. Maybe it's V-sync of some kind. Or something else. But this is a debug build, although I guess CPU frame time suggests that's not really the issue. Oh, can I not resize the window? Yeah, I don't actually support that. Great. It's probably averaging to 16 consistently, and it's just like spikes in the time. Like maybe the timer I'm using isn't very good. Who knows? I'd have to check. And it's using SDL. I'd have to check what SDL is doing under the hood. But probably it's just that it's pseudo V-synced, but because I'm drawing to a window, it's not actually full screen V-sync. So it's probably just doing something kind of weird due to that. Can't actually. Oh, I bet that's actually being time limited by my my code. Actually thinking about it, I probably have a time limiter on it that forces it to go no faster. Yeah. No, I allow it to go faster. What happens if I busy wait instead of sleeping for a millisecond? Sleeping for a millisecond. What happens if I busy wait instead of... What happens if I busy wait instead of sleeping for a millisecond? No visible difference. Who knows? Okay, so what was I talking about? Oh, right. I need sprites. Okay, well, nobody has any suggestions, so I'll just go ahead and make some dummy sprites. So lovely that this lets me bring up the dialogue before it's ready. So we go to all right, so we go to main, somewhere we create a texture. Oh, it'll be very nice. I'll get to use texture arrays again. I've never done a sprite system using texture arrays. Maybe that's not a temporary hack. Maybe I'm going to stick with that system. Let's go ahead and this. And this should be hard-coded, but whatever. I don't know what this 128 is for. Oh, it's the third dimension, right? So how many sprites do we have? And we'll just load that one directly for now. That and make sure that's not specifying. Yeah, okay. It specifies the input type, not that. It's assuming wraparound. Edge. What's the other edge mode? Edge 0. Oh, yeah. Wrap. Maybe I should pass that flag in instead of having a boolean there. Okay, in slot 0. Now I think the problem is I found that there's no way to use texture arrays with GLBegin, GLEnd or something like that. Maybe it was something else that I couldn't do that with. So let's see if we can view this texture with the debug texture viewer. So 2D array X, is that what that name was? 2D array X. Specify 0 for the other texture coordinate. Looks like it's an empty texture. Oh, that has an assert, so it must have succeeded. Yeah. All right. So like I said, maybe you can't. Maybe that was the thing that had the bad interaction with immediate mode. I guess I would need to go back and check how I originally tried to test whether this stuff was working. Yes, this looks suspiciously like it. Oh. Right, it's not that begin and end necessarily doesn't work. Oh, well, maybe. It's that fixed function doesn't work. That's why. Now, I don't know if I still have dumb prog being created. Yep, there it is. All right. Yep, there it is. All right. And this needs to be pre-multiplied. Source test. And I need to actually pre-multiply it. Still a little code from work here, except that it's just an implementation of still a little code from work here, except that it's just an implementation of still a little code from work here, except that it's just an implementation of Boolean's implementation for doing a multiply of two 8-bit values that I need for pre-multiplication. 8-bit values that I need for pre-multiplication. 3. Okay. So now it's pre-multiplied. Why is that an S? It's odd. Okay, that didn't work. Oh, times 3. Huh. Okay, now the edges are clean. They had little artifacts before. All right, so that works. So dumb prog. What is dumb prog doing? Dumb prog. What is dumb prog? What is dumb prog doing? It's a fragment shader with no vertex shader. Does that mean it uses the fit function vertex shader? Yeah, because the problem is the 2D array, so the vertex shader. Still a little code from work here, except that it's just an implementation of Boolean's implementation for doing a multiply of two 8-bit values. Implementation for doing a multiply of two 8-bit values that I need for pre-multiplication. Is that what I called it? The underscore. Oh, there it is. All right. And this needs to be pre-multiplied. Okay, now the edges are clean. They had little artifacts before. All right, so that works. Oh, there it is. All right. And this needs to be pre-multiplied. So dumb is the 2D array, so the vertex shader doesn't care about that. Okay, so so we get rid of debug text, and we want to do we get rid of debug text, and we want to do render objects, render sprites. All right, let's just do a hack thing for now. So actually, let's if we just make all the sprites the same size, that'll actually save a little math. But then we waste, if we have small ones, we waste fill rate drawing them. So like pause, foot size. Okay, so what do we need to do? We need to SPGL use program. Is that what it's called? Prog. And I want all that actually. Oh, we can supply a color. And then draw a rect TC array. That might be a local thing because I had to add the array stuff. No, I guess I added it to SCBGL. No. Oh, okay. Oh, okay. No, it is still just using immediate mode. All right, good. Wonder what? Oh, text recording array. Yeah. So. How do we want to do this? Let's do it the inefficient but clear way to start with. Okay, so this is the bottom right point. Do we have... Where is the vec thing defined? Is that defined in here? Do we have any vec functions? I think not. I think that was the thing I said I need to add. Not the vector type, just the vector functions. compute these. P0 equals like add s pause s off. Wait, like sub pause s off. P2 equals like add P1 P off. P equals like add P0 off. Oops, no, P0.x. These offsets are totally wrong. They're just to have some offset to test with to start. I do send that information. I do send that information for client to server, but I don't for server to client. And that's sort of twofold. If you tried to send the actions from server to client, then if you couldn't use UDP, because if you missed an action, you'd desync. So you have to use TCP or fake your own reliable transmit, which ruins the latency, makes everything more late. The idea is that traditionally this idea stems from 10 years ago or whatever, when ADSL meant people could download a lot more than they could upload. So it made sense to send more data one way than the other. But now you're probably mainly looking at server costs, where that's cost of that server sending all that data out is problematic. Certainly if you do the thing where, you know, deathmatchy game, one of the players acts as a server, you have a problem with the server upload bandwidth. And so, yeah, there's a lot of stuff to do to reduce how much is being sent, which I just didn't get to yet in the networking code. Okay, so that's maybe okay, and we just want to initialize these sprites to some dummy stuff. Like, eventually what I'll do is traverse the world and build the sprite list from scratch every frame, which also may not be very efficient. We'll have to see how that shakes out. Like, eventually what I'll do is traverse. You just want to initialize these. That's maybe okay, and we just okay, so that's maybe okay. Okay, so that's maybe okay, and we just want to initialize these sprites to some dummy stuff. Like, eventually what I'll do is traverse the world and build the sprite list from scratch every frame, which also may not be very efficient. We'll have to see how that shakes out. Let's put these here, and let's just create some initial sprites, bogus sprites. Oops. Let me say, that's not right. All right. What did I forget to do? Okay, at this point, this is no longer worth dealing with. I'm dealing with this the whole time. Oh yeah, it's. Let's go ahead and do it this way, the way that I wrote it. Let the optimizer optimize. Just do all these at once. And we need to return it. See them anywhere? Did I actually render? Did I leave out a step? I never called that function. Render sprites. Okay, it's a bunch of black blobs, so I'm not doing something correct. They're all one-sided, that's expected. Okay, what did I do? I didn't set the color. No, I did set the color. I'll go ahead and set it internally, just because that's how it's going to be eventually. I enabled the texture. Oh, I said debug text. It's sprite text. Okay, now they're doing something weirder. They're only visible from a very narrow angle, and then they disappear. What the heck would do that? Are they being clipped? Is that mip mapping? Is that the mip maps are wrong? Let's not have any mip maps. What determines whether you have mip maps or not? Oh, the mip mapping filter. Which I probably don't ever set anywhere. Just kind of a bug. I remember how to do this offhand. TextEnv? Is it TextEnv? Is it part of... No, TextEnv is the blend mode. Text parameter. Let's look in SDBGL. I have that up here. GL create. I don't remember what it's called. Texture. Something to do with textures. Maybe it's at the end. There we are. Surprised I wasn't ever setting that. GL linear map linear, is that right? No, that's the other one. GL linear. Oh, and I need to add the array X at the end. And then if we disable, well, we shouldn't need to. The one was drawing. Yeah, I don't know. What would that be? I bind the texture. Geo. No, it changed when I changed this, so I am clearly changing the right slot. Let's do that. What? This just makes no sense. Oh, that's I. It's S0 ID. I might as well just get it right. So who knows what was in the memory for those other ones, which is probably what was going on there. So who knows what was in the memory for those other ones, which is probably what was going on there. Okay, there we go. All right, so we have a whole bunch of sprites that are not facing the right direction and are the wrong scale, but that's all to be expected. All right, so now we need to make them turn to face the camera. So now we need to make, all right, so now we need to make them turn to face the camera. And we need to get where's the player physics? I don't know where player physics lives. Remember. Oh, it's right above. Ob space to world space. Okay, that is how we do this. We actually want camera because if we did have a third person camera, we would actually want to use the camera. So maybe we should do that instead. Except I don't think I have the camera separated out anywhere. Where do we set up the camera? Well, we use that. So we do support it being separate, but oh, we have a third person mode, that's right. See? Super inefficient way to do this, but let's live with it. There we go. Got it right. Now what's happening is they're all turning to face me as I turn. So if I walk around it, you can see that. Now we need to extend this. To extend this. Now we need to extend this. Just use that pattern. Okay, and now we can make them bigger and smaller. Okay. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to give this secret. Oh, I need to add the okay. I'm just gonna leave this place so that I can push the current stuff. Without changing my password. Okay, so now I have some sprites that I can render when I need them. Let's go back to our to-do. Actually, did I have a separate thing for rendering? Yeah, I did. Of course, I don't know that this works for 10,000 sprites, but whatever. All right, so I want to make placing. So what I want to actually do is, allow you to rotate what you're placing. And I probably do need a ghost object for that so you can see that. Making a ghost object is kind of a pain, actually, though. Because we'll need a separate block renderer for them. Oh, and also these sprites, I should mention, aren't done because they don't sort correctly. So if I can get one in front of me. I can't manage to line them up. I guess I gotta go into fly mode. At least it happens to sort correctly by chance. Oh, I didn't turn off the Z buffer. That's why. So they are actually sorting. But it's going to cause an artifact at the edges. Wait, why do their edges have an artifact? I turned on Bilarp, didn't I? Oh, I turned it off. Yeah, that's alpha testing there. No wonder they're sorting correctly. So let's fix that so they don't sort correctly. So let's fix that so they don't sort correctly. Yeah, I disabled it. You'll disable. Well, alpha tests actually shouldn't be able to be happening because we're using dumb prog, which shouldn't alpha test. GL disable GL depth. And we want to keep depth test, but we want to disable depth right. How do you do that? Depth mask, depth, something like that. It's still color mask. Is that a function? GL depth mask. GL false. Yep. Okay. So now it should be working. Except I actually have a bug because that's the bitmaps are wrong. Oh, because the bitmaps don't know they're pre-multiplied alpha. That's why. Okay. So now it should be working. Except I actually have a bug because that's the bitmaps are wrong. Oh, because the bitmaps don't know they're pre-multiplied alpha. That's why. Fortunately, I know I need that eventually. I know I need that eventually. these should be bowls instead of ints. Let's find where this needs to be fixed. Not premol. Premol. Ah. What's going on here? Yeah, no, there's no weird artifacts. And it's what's wrong. Alright. Now I get up close to the edge. Yeah, it just has that bilinear edge shape. Okay, so that's all correct. I mean, it's all behaving as I expected. So we'll have to fix the sorting at some point. Or just switch back to alpha testing. Alpha testing may be fine. Maybe that's going to be quality modes. Low quality will alpha test and high quality will sort the sprites back to front. Oh, sort of looking a little bit of snow here. Okay, so okay, so back to the to-do list. Right, okay, so I want to get the placement of the... Okay, so I want to get the... Right, okay, so I want to get... Back to the to-do list. So back to the to-do list. Right, okay, so I want to get the placement of the conveyor belts to feel better. Right now there's just a hack. Mouse down. These feel so totally backwards that I'm going to reverse them and screw Minecraft. So here's where the rotation was coming from. So let's have a global determines it. And then let's hit R to rotate. Where the rotation Minecraft. Hack. Mouse down. These feel so totally backwards that I'm going to reverse them and screw Minecraft. So here's where the rotation was coming from. So let's have a global determines it. And then let's hit R to rotate. Oh, there's already an R here for launching the lights. So we need two different kinds of rotation. We need rotation of the thing you're going to place and rotation of the thing that's already there in the world. Maybe we just have rotation of what's there in the world. It is not part of a particle effect system. It is not part of a particle effect system. It is part of a sprite rendering system for having sprite objects. which like Minecraft does for anything that's not block shaped. You know, for swords and ores, not ores, but bars, you know, iron bars and but we need to have a lot of them, so they will be particle system like in that we have to render a ton, and so I'm using trying to write a kind of particle style renderer to be efficient. So rotate, I have to write the rotate function. So mouse down. So rotate. So rotate, I have to write the rotate function. So mouse down. Rotate block it was called. So that's now it's no longer to destroy, it's to operate on. Oops, I accidentally destroy. All right. And equals get block 0, selected block 1, selected block 2, if block greater equal bt conveyor east, that block less than equal bt conveyor south, then change block. I think I have an integer vector type I should be using here to block minus bt conveyor east plus 1 mod 3 plus bt conveyor east. Would be clearer if that was a separate rotation. I need to implement get block. Yep. I need to implement get block. Yep. And that's a mesh builder. We're only going to return changed blocks. We're not going to support edits. No edits. We're not going to support getting blocks generated by the terrain because we'd have to actually generate it. For now. And then if you change one that's already existing, we want to make sure the new change is last. So we will shortcut this. When did I just change? Why does it look like they have a little border around them again? We do. How's that border? I thought... That map generation ain't right. It's doing something wrong. Sadness. What did I just change? Oh, right. Yeah. Okay. So if I place, and then I rotate, rotate, rotate. Does it even get to this? These feel so totally backwards that. So here's where the rotation was coming from. So let's have a global determines it. And then let's hit R to rotate. Oh, there's R and R here for launching the lights. So we need two different kinds of rotation. We need rotation of the thing you're going to place and rotation of the thing that's already there in the world. Doesn't even get to this. It is changing the type. Oh, yeah. Ha. Okay. We still need to force the updates. Force the updates. Okay. We still need to force the updates. Click tab to the window. Okay, so did it again. Oh, right, because I disabled that. Oh, the problem is it's in debug. It's late. Okay, so it gives me a little control. I gotta fix the mouse in the window thing. If I actually left that disabled, I thought I re-enabled it, but I did. It just sometimes fails to work, I guess. Yeah, apparently. So let's see if it feels better in release. So let's see if it feels better in release. I mean, this is the problem with going through the whole mesh generation threaded reloader thing. Like, maybe it would be better if these objects were, oops, yeah. If these objects were something that could update instantly instead of going through the thing. This would be fine for turning the corners if it were, if I were just using the conveyor belt the way Infinifactory does. But I'd like to do the Factorio style multiple things in different positions on them, and that requires the turning the corner have some kind of actual thing. Do I want to do that now, or do I want to start doing the sim? I guess I want to start doing the sim. Okay, so, all right, so what we want to do is start working on, all right, so what we want to do is start working on the logistics sim. So, new text file. So, whenever we change a block, which was in Mesh Builder, we need to do the logistics update for it as well. logistics update for it as well. So basically we want to keep a totally parallel world representation of anything that the logistics simulation needs to know about. And then the logistics simulation can just fully simulate everything it's doing totally in world representation. Totally parallel. We want to keep a totally basically we want to keep a totally so basically we want to keep a totally parallel world representation of anything that the logistics simulation needs to know about. And then the logistics simulation can just fully simulate everything it's doing totally independent of the block world and the block world physics. And we'll let the two interact when they need to interact, like the player places a block needs to affect both worlds. And but we won't bother collision detecting stuff that's on a conveyor belt against the world. Instead, if you place a block that should block the sim, that has to update into the logistics thing. But so then objects moving in the world will not interact with objects moving in the logistics sim, unless we want to intentionally do that. Like maybe if we make something like Factorio Aliens, they need to destroy stuff. They need to destroy the logistics sim stuff as well as the world stuff. Oh yeah, see this thing I have read this. This thing I have read this. I'm not at all inspired by it. I think it has a lot of interesting but wrong ideas. I mean, I don't know about wrong, but like he does a whole thing to do LOD. He has to build multiple texture things that are just really gross. It's like, it's all kind of a terrible way to go about it, I feel like. And I think it might have also been one of the ones that talked about merging blocks, merging faces if they were the same texture or something like that, which is an idea lots of people talk about with voxel stuff and you should never do. Yeah, so, and I mean, it's a hard the LOD is a hard problem. I just didn't really care for his solution. But yeah, I've read most of it and didn't like most of the ideas. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just not how I would do it. It's not influencing me. I don't think. But anyway, so this is just a really powerful idea. This idea that there's sort of multiple independent worlds, the logistics world and the physics world. I kind of have an anecdote about that, but like you could just imagine taking two games or a game with levels and just loading two levels at once and drawing them at the same time, and because you have a Z buffer, it will resolve the two things and draw them together. And it won't make any sense at all because they're just two different levels. Anecdote about that, but like you could just imagine kind and worlds. I would do it. It's not influencing me. I don't think. But anyway, so there's this is. But anyway, so this is just a really powerful idea. This idea that there's sort of multiple independent worlds: the logistics world and the physics world. I kind of have an anecdote about that, but like you could just imagine taking two games or a game with levels and just loading two levels at once and drawing them at the same time, and because you have a Z buffer, it will resolve the two things and draw them together. And it won't make any sense at all because they're just two different levels. But you can sort of imagine if you had sort of like parallel universes, if you designed the levels to interact properly, that you put them together and you get a sort of coherent thing. And so you can also imagine, you know, that you make, you have one world that's like a block world, everything is hard edged polygons. I imagine you have a totally different world that's everything is this soft fuzzy shapes because you made a soft fuzzy renderer and it has a soft fuzzy world and it's just totally all independent. And that you want to build a game that has both, that you can sort of just have both those worlds running at the same time. And the rendering just works because of the Z buffer if both things are Z buffered. And maybe, you know, the soft world. So basically we want to keep a totally parallel world representation of anything that the logistics simulation needs to know about. And then the logistics simulation can just fully simulate everything it's doing, totally independent. So basically we want to keep a totally parallel world representation of anything that the logistics simulation needs to know about. And then the logistics simulation can just fully simulate everything it's doing, totally independent of the block world and the block world physics. And we'll let the two interact when they need to interact, like the player places a block needs to affect both worlds. And but we won't bother collision detecting stuff that's on a conveyor belt against the world. Instead, if you place a block that should block the sim, that has to update into the logistics thing. But so then objects moving in the world will not interact with objects moving in the logistics sim, unless we want to intentionally do that. But anyway, so this is just a really powerful idea. This idea that there's sort of multiple independent worlds: the logistics world and the physics world. And maybe, you know, the soft world has this sort of soft body physics, and the hard world has rigid body physics, and so you just run totally independent physics sims. But you do need the physics to interact with each other to some extent. Maybe you can get away with them not being coherent, you know, like maybe pushing a soft object with a hard object is kind of funky and vice versa, but the pushing is all coherent in the rigid body world. That may be okay for your gameplay. And that's just a powerful tool because you can just separate those things out and have a narrow set of interactions between them. And so that's what we're doing here. We're making this parallel world that's the logistics world. That's the world of conveyor belts and trains and crafting and all that kind of stuff. Although a lot of that stuff is sort of meta out of the world of crafting. But and then we'll just, any place where our game design requires them to interact, we'll implement the interactions. But if we can choose to have them not interact as part of the game design, then they don't. So the background noise is distracting. Yeah, I can't increase the background noise is distracting. Yeah, I can't. The background noise is distracting. Yeah, I can't increase the threshold. I don't think. I think I tried this and it. Oh right, it's because this OBS doesn't seem to have a setting for that. Oh right, no, microphone noise gate. Yeah, I tried it and it had problems. What kind of background noise do you mean? Just the typing or something else? Oh, I don't need headphones either. Don't know why I'm wearing them. You can hear cars. Yeah, well. Let me turn the microphone a little bit more towards me. It's going to be really noisy while I'm doing that. But yeah, there's not much we can do about that. As I recall, I couldn't get that to work properly. And it's too hard for me to test it. So I think we'll just have to live with it. So we need some kind of representation of the world, and I don't know what this is going to be like. So we're going to just totally recode this as I go, because yeah, what it really needs is a base filter, probably. I don't think this one has one, though. Just to get at the rumbling of the trucks going by. But yeah, I don't have a base filter on this mic. So yeah, we have to figure out what is in the logistics sim and stuff. So for now, I'm not going to worry that I'm getting it right. So so what we need is, and this is something I have to do for the edits later too, but so we need to have a big world. So we're going to work with logistics chunks, and maybe we'll just go ahead and match them to the gen chunk size. Put that into the header file. All right, now I'm just going to change from using size to using count. Let's go ahead and use X, Y, even though I hate having X and Y separate. Because we actually want to do this in Z as well. And we'll have Z, I think we'll do 3. That's going to be a problem with that prefix. I'm always going to accidentally type it its logic instead of logy. All right, so I don't know that I need a separate block type, actually. Maybe I just won't work with chunks. So, G, chunk size, Z. Now for these, we're going to go in normal order, because stuff happens mostly in the plane, except when you have slopes. And then let's call that a block although I called it a chunk, so let's call this a block. No, block means something else. So this has logi chunk size z max z over. We need to round that up. Let's just do this. Okay. Logi chunk size. Oh yeah, that one. Size. Logi chunk. Logi. Logi chunk size. Oh yeah, that one. XY3, XYZ, XYZ, XYZ. Okay, that looks good. So now we have a 32 by 32 logi slice. And then we'll keep how big of a logistics sim should we do around the player? Like you to be able to make really huge things. I mean, ideally, I think in Factorio, everything just always runs. Logi chunk size. Oh yeah, that one. XY3, XYZ, XYZ, XYZ. Okay, that looks good. So now we have a 32 by 32 logi slice. Let's say we had 4K by 4K around the player. I mean, ideally, I'd like you to be able to make really how big of a logistic, and then we'll keep how big of a logistics sim should we do around the player? Like you to be able to make really huge things. I mean, ideally, I think in Factorio, everything just always runs. Let's say we had 4K by 4K around the player. That would be 4K over 32, which is 2 to the 12 over 2 to the 5, which is 2 to the 7. So that would be 2 to the 7 times 2 to the 7 times, how big is this? 256 over 8. It's 2 to the 8 over 2 to the 3. So that's 2 to the 5. And then each pointer in 32-bit is 2. So that's 2 to the 7 plus 7 plus 5 plus 2 equals 2 to the 21 equals 2 megabytes. So, all right, we can afford to store that, although we don't really want to walk it all the time. Let's do the same thing we normally do. Logi slice. slice, logi slice, world. So define logi size as slice X, slice Y. So that's, oh, I never finished saying how big it is. So I was proposing that. Now, of course, the actual storage is however many logi chunks we actually allocate and how big those are. This is just the storage for the sparse world. So, logi slice. So, did those have a size in them? Yes. Logi chunk size. Having the header file, having the header file that all the functions are in is a new thing. I've only been doing this for a couple projects. Doing my work project and the OBBG are the only two things I've done this on. I think it's a good idea. I think it's going to work, but wait, how does this work? It's logi world of slice Y. Yeah, slice Y, slice X. If S arrow slice X does not equal slice X, or slice Y does not equal slice Y. It's, yeah, it's a DOS keyboard blue, I think. I'm on Windows. It's, yeah, it's a DOS keyboard blue, I think. I'm on Windows 7 with I'm on Windows 7 with the desktop personalized to the classic Windows style, because I don't like the gradient title bars that I guess XP introduced. So I manually get rid of the gradients. So here we have to logistics free slice. I guess I'm gonna want this a name. No wonder this is weird. I guess we return that. And if it's null, it's null. That's not right. That needs to be masked. Passing S, and then we say chunk C equals chunk C equals null. Having the header file, it's a DOS keyboard. I'm on Windows 7 with the desktop personalized to the classic Windows style because I don't like the gradient title. The gradient. C equals malloc size of C, and set C. Now I still have to implement those, but now that creates a chunk that we can actually update, and we just go burp, launch chunk equals logistics. Yeah, chunk alloc z 0 type of zyx. Let's introduce a mask thing so we don't have to keep doing this. Fine logi mask x logi chunk size. Let's do it like this. Okay. So that's logi. Oh, I did that. Logi chunk mask z and z. Logi chunk mask y y. Logi chunk. But now that creates a now I still have to implement those, but now that creates a chunk that we can actually update, and we just go burp.